Welcome to Black Girl Say Something, where this black girl has something to say. And it is April. It is quarter two. And I'm hoping for, and I'm just going to say that the A in April is for abundance. I had said on April 1st that there's no such thing as April Fools because it feels very foolish living in these current times. And honestly, I'm hoping that April and the rest of 2025 brings me unlimited profitable opportunities. Yes, in that order. Unlimited profitable opportunities. And so this episode, I want to touch on what I spoke about in the last episode as it relates to I asked the question, would you be friends with your siblings? And while I did bring about some points of why I wouldn't be friends with them, it's not because they're all bad. Let's start there. And this is, interestingly enough, this is a conversation that my siblings and I have all the time, especially the younger ones, because I find myself in a teaching space, a space where I cultivate growth, knowledge, and understanding, and share some of my wisdom. And the reality of it is, when you allow yourself to be in relationship with people, and I use the word relationship to encompass all levels of relationship, whether it be platonic, friendship, working relationships, uh relationship between you and your parents, relationships of the romantic type, relationships where your business partnerships, whatever type of ships, for the sake of this conversation, they all require some level of boundaries. And I've found myself with my younger siblings talking about, because amongst me and a few of my younger siblings, we share a mom and some of us share a dad. And some of us don't even have the same moms, but the conversation is still the same. Even if they weren't your parent, or if I wasn't your sibling or you weren't my sibling, these are just some of the things that I would not allow. And it brings me to a Facebook post that I saw that said, I try my best to be the friend that I want somebody to be to me. I try my best to be the friend that I would want somebody to be to me. And even in that space of cultivating friendships, one of the very first episodes of Black Girl Say Something, the very first season, I should say, was a relationship paradigm shift. And in that episode, I detailed what it was like for me going through a friendship breakup, and why relationships have to change, because the change is required in order for you to grow, in order for that person to grow, and in order for the relationship to grow. And my peak of therapy had nothing to do with being in a domestic abusive, um, almost ending marriage, and everything to do with I started therapy because my heart was broken when my friend broke up with me. And through some therapy, through recognizing some boundaries, through being able to, I would be so much more to people than they were to me. And not saying that's why that friendship broke up, if we're being honest, but the reality is I would find myself giving, giving, and giving, and feeling depleted because if I didn't get that back in return. And it wasn't in a competitive type of way, but I know this for sure, that the friends and the community and the group of people that I have around me now, they would say I'm dependable. I exhibit empathy, I give encouragement, I'm loyal, I'm accepting, I'm forgiving, I'm a good listener, I'm trustworthy, supportive. And let me dive into this supportive piece real quick, because if you have never received good news from your friend and you didn't feel like it was also your good news, maybe you should check your bias a little bit. I've had people share good news with me and I'm literally like screaming, bawling. Sometimes I'm even crying. Okay. And I just be like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? Why do I feel such a emotional connection to this news? Now, I don't know. The astrology girlies might be able to identify with this. I'm not really that deep into astrology as I would perceive myself to be, but that's just me living in my delusion. I would say it's because I'm a Libra, because Libras love love and relationship and community. And because of all of that, I mean, when people tell me good news, like I have a Instagram friend. We're colleagues. We're both opticians, and so we're colleagues within that respect. And the one time I go to Vision Expo, she ended up not going to Vision Expo. Um, and it's just one of these things where I was planning to go see her last year and I end up not being able to go because my contract ended and it just didn't work out the way I liked it to work out. And I'm like, okay, I got to get there to see her. And she shares this piece of good news with me through Instagram. Like, honestly, I don't know who else she shared it with. Seemingly, from what she told me, she shared it with just me. And it's like, we haven't even met in person, but we've maintained some sort of relationship as it relates to, her being a colleague of mine, us being in the same field, supporting each other's business and all of that good stuff. And she was like, yeah, I wanted to share this with you. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And so I sent her a voice note screaming, and she's like, that's the type of energy I needed because I was getting anxious. And I'm just like, wow, I'm so happy for you. But I'd be on TikTok live running my mouth and talking and just putting out the conversation of Black Girls Say Something, because finding that community, it's not about being viral for me. It's not about that. It's not about having a mass following. It's really just about each one reach one, teach one, and the people that it will resonate with will resonate with. You notice I always say, if this um episode resonated with you, share this with at least one person, because at the end of the day, all it really needs is to resonate with one person who shares it with one person who shares it with one person who shares it with one person, and now we have 10 people, right? But when I think about my relationships with my sisters, again, there's a space where people will see the three of us together as a trio, me being the oldest, there's a second oldest and the youngest, and they be like, oh, y'all was a trip growing up together. No, we wasn't. We didn't even grow up together. We just got to know each other as adults. And because we've got to know each other as adults, we've had some kinks we had to work out. We had some understandings that we have to come to. And I'm not, so far removed from being this big sister that I can't pick up and say, hey, this is where I messed up. Because again, I think we talk about friendships and the qualities and people saying, you know what? Sometimes the friends that they want aren't even the type of friend that they are. And I think that was a turning point for me coming out of my marriage, because it was like he would have all of these different friend groups and it would be some sort of falling out, right? You'd be friends with somebody for a year or two and then you're not friends with those people anymore. Then you get into a new friend group and then you're not friends with them anymore, and so on and so forth. And it just would kind of flip flop. Whereas with me, anytime I would get to a stable place of maintaining friendships, because again, listen back to some old Black Girl Say Something episodes, like from I do to I don't, where when you say I do, sometimes you're saying I do to some things you don't even want to subscribe to. One of those being not being in community. He thrived in me not being in community, because if I'm not in community, then I'm not sharing the BS that's going on between us with other people. And while I do like friendships, I like to maintain friendships. He was okay with me having this one friend, but once it became too many friends, now it's a problem. You're finding fault. He even tried to find fault with that one friend, if we're being honest. And I was like, no, she's not even like that. I've had some strange falling out with other friends where it was like we just stopped talking. And honestly, I don't know if he had anything to do with that. Not quite sure. But whenever we cross paths again, I'm definitely going to ask, because I have nothing to lose or gain from knowing. But it would just be interesting for my own social research. But when I think about friendships, I've said on a number of episodes on the podcast, when it comes to sibling relationships, parents are responsible for that. Someone did give me a perspective and said it also depends on if they have the same mother and father. I think that to be true, because I do have one of my sisters, her and our brother, they have the same mother, but all of us have the same father. And I think that to be true. And if they don't have typically a good relationship, not saying them, but when I've seen that kids who have the same mom and mother and father, or people who have the same mother and father, and they don't have a good sibling relationship, I just chalk it up to maybe it's something the parents did, right? Maybe there's some sibling rivalry there. I see how my kids are coming up. I and reinforce within them their own problem solving and character building and conflict resolution strategies and leadership strategies amongst them so that they can have that understanding of what it's like to maintain friendships. But if they can understand each other's boundaries, then they will understand when other people have boundaries. Like, for example, I've always told my daughter, I was like, I understand how aggy little brothers can be. So I'm teaching him how to not be aggravating to her, right? How to not be a nuisance to her sometimes. Because little brothers just, they be little brothering. And so I have those talks with him. I don't get down on her. Whereas my upbringing was a little bit different, right? It's like you're the oldest, you know better. Whole time you got this while you getting fussed at, you got this little brother sticking out his tongue at you like, aha, I got you in trouble. And so again, it's reinforcing the fact of how I was brought up and going back and looking at how can I do this differently? Instead of having that conversation with her, I 10 times out of 10 have those conversations with him. And I know the last few episodes have kind of been uh in a space of like parenting advice, but I saw a video on TikTok where a mom was talking about, how she's find herself trying to compensate with her son. And I think as moms, as solo parents, primary parents, single mothers, whatever verbiage you want to subscribe to, who you are as a parent that's not with the father, try not to compensate. There's no need to overcompensate for the parent that's not there. Work on yourself and you will be giving your child what you can give them. You cannot overcompensate. You cannot be the mother and the father. Like, I don't know where that comes from, but as for me and mine, because my kids are in therapy and therapy requires time, and being a parent that is so present requires a lot of time, my hiatus from formally working and my hiatus from being, in between business deals and contracts, as I would like to say, I'm finding more and more ways to just be me and be firm in my boundaries. And my son said something quite interesting the other day. I said, why when I tell you no to something, you keep asking? He says, because I hope you change your mind. And I said, that's not going to work. I said, that's not okay. That's not okay. And so if I didn't have reinforced boundaries that I had been learning prior to, you know, coming out of this domestic situation, these kids would be running all over me. I just thought I would throw that in there since we're talking about the different levels and spaces as it relates to relationships. But it all boils down to having boundaries. And so if you are the type of friend that you find yourself crossing your friends' boundaries, because sometimes I think people know what they're doing. And then other times I take it as a moment to educate. And if I'm educating you, it's because I care about you. When I stop educating you, I really don't give a damn. But all in all, if something resonated with you, share this episode with at least one person. Remember, you can tune into Black Girl Say Something. New episodes air every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. Also, subscribe to our Patreon. We have an exclusive episode over there with a guest, and it would do me a great justice if you would just subscribe, purchase that episode, and watch it because I put a lot of time, monetary value, and effort into this episode with getting a podcast engineer and all of that good stuff. So I would greatly appreciate if y'all view that episode. Also, Black Girl Say Something was a guest on the Girl Come Sit With Me podcast. Girl Come Sit With Me. This black girl was on there. And so that's on YouTube. So I'll be sure to link that also in the description of this episode. But of course, you know what else you could do for us? You could just leave us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. I see that you can follow us on Spotify, so you're up to date whenever we drop an episode. You can subscribe also on Apple Podcasts. So there's all of these different things that you can do to help me promote the podcast that doesn't cost you anything but a click of a button, or a touch of a screen. So I really appreciate all of those who tune in, follow, subscribe, and definitely interact with the podcast. So tune in next time.